Can't even drink a pint of ale.
Yeah, because it's disgusting.
It's not disgusting.
Yes, it is disgusting.
It's not disgusting.
It's disgusting.
Well, then I won't buy you another one.
Good.
I drink and I know things.
The dragon will never lose.
Welcome back to Flagons and Dragons. I'm Sir Jamie the Golden, and I'm back in Westeros with my egg, Magna Mills, to talk about A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, the second spin-off of Game of Thrones. On this episode, we'll be breaking down the third episode of Season 1, titled The Squire. Mills, can you believe we're already halfway through the first season of this thing? It's just flying by.
I'm not sure if my mind is more blown by that or the fact that we're already through an entire month of the year 2026. I'm like, Doc Brown in the end of Back to the Future 2, where he finds out, wait, we got to go back to 1955 again? Again? Like, I just don't believe it, dude. I don't believe it. So that's what's going on, though. We're halfway through. Thank y'all for being good eggs and checking out this episode of Flagons and Dragons. We truly appreciate it. Show is presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. You can find our content wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Dudes Watch Stuff and in the same place on the World Wide Web, dudeswatchstuff.com. Nice and easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please press that thumb.
From this point forward, we got to tell you, there's going to be spoilers, full-on spoilers for this episode and all aired episodes of The Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. And this also includes after shows, podcasts, articles, interviews, the whole ball of wax. We also might be touching some spoilers, just some, of the original novella, as well as for Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, but we will do our best to give advance warning if it's anything major. We do not want to be those guys. And if you don't know, now you know.
This is The Squire, Season 1, Episode 3, the third overall episode of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Originally aired February 2nd, 2026. Directed by Sarah Adina Smith. It looks like she's also directing the fourth and sixth episodes of the season. I don't know a ton from her filmography, but she did direct 2 episodes of Wrecked, the old Lost comedy from, I think that was TNT or TBS, I don't remember which one, and also an episode of Legion, which was quite good. Episode was written for television by Hiria Martinez, Annie Julie Wyman, and Ira Parker. Ira Parker, once again, is the showrunner. The short plot synopsis is Sir Duncan prepares for the tournament, and much more is revealed about Egg. And JBG, overall thoughts here? I mean, let's just start right there. Much more was revealed about Egg. I, obviously, having read the novellas, was familiar with what was coming. Did you think they did this in the right way? Did it kind of land the way, it was a big kind of dramatic moment there? Did it land for you here? Did they do a nice job of kind of laying out the breadcrumbs here? What did you think about the Egg reveal?
I thought they did, and they've been kind of planting the seed that something's brewing with this really since the first episode. So it wasn't, it's not like it was some big hidden secret. If you looked hard enough, you would have found it anyways. But I actually, the more I watch this episode, the more I like how they did it. Because you kind of had this ultimate kind of like bonding episode between Egg and Dunk. I think more so than any of the other episodes prior. And then you get this thing where he's got to kind of like, he's got to use that ace card to save Duncan here, right? And it's the only thing he can do to save him. And so I like that it forced that position. And now we get to see how Dunk responds and if that changes things. Because, I mean, dude, up until this episode, Dunk never committed that you will be my squire moving forward. He did in this episode. So there was a future laid out for these two. And they're so great together. It's like big brother, little brother. Like, I don't know. I really like this combo. And so I like that they did it like this, man, because now, not saying the combo's at risk, but things could change moving forward here. And I think that's what's exciting about it.
Well, what's kind of surprising to me is that Egg is going to be cool with being a squire and not being a lawyer. Think about all the way he answered everything. Like, he never lied, right? He never even if you got to take me back to King's Landing. What are you from, Flea Bottom? No. Like he never comes out and says he's a Targaryen, but again, little clues like when the Targaryens show up, like that's when he ghosts, how
Yeah.
much he knows about everything. So, you get right on the edge of it a bunch of times here, even the way that they obviously kind of tiptoe around saying the name Aegon just because it sounds so much like egg. I think it would have kind of tipped people off and helps a little bit that he looks like an egg too, a little bit. So you can maybe be like, oh, that's why he is nicknamed thusly. So, that kind of makes sense. And, you kind of mentioned it here, like this has to at least change the dynamic somewhat, right? I mean, because, Dunk for all his bluster, like, he always talks about how he's going to like, I'll send you to the moon, kind of smack him around a little bit. You get the idea Dunk's really, he's probably never going to actually do that. I think Egg knows that, but this kind of changes that. Not like, can he really even say that kind of stuff to Egg anymore? Like, there's obviously going to be maybe, I don't know if new rules going forward, but the dynamic certainly has to change a bit, right?
I think it's got to. I don't know that he can look at him the same, right? I mean, he's just trying to be a knight. Like he's hedge knight, right? And now all of a sudden you've got like legit noble royalty who's acting as a squire, I guess. It'll be interesting to see. I think the only kind of saving grace here is you got to believe Egg with his way of words has a way to kind of make this right if Dunk will listen. And it'll be interesting to see the spin he puts on it to kind of get him there. But yeah, I mean, I overall, dude, I thought it was cool how they did it. I wish there would have been a little bit more with Tansia with how like I wish they would have maybe kissed once or something to make it seem like a little bit more like I mean I did like this was the first like real action we saw like when Homeboy snapped he was a beast in there, dude. So it was nice to see that a little bit, but overall I wish there would have been a little bit more with him in the lady to make sure that like he would in fact risk it. Maybe the point was that he doesn't think like that. I don't know.
I think it's again the classic Jamie G special, little column A, little column B, because one of the
Yeah.
runners in this episode is like what it is to be a knight, right? And like he is so dumbfounded by the fact that like Arian could have potentially kind of cheated or gone for the horse there to injure the other dude intentionally, and Duncan's kind of like, well, dude, he's a knight, like and he's a prince, and like how on earth could he do that? Raymond kind of looks at him like, dude, what are you? How many of those ciders have you had, dog? Like what,
Right.
and I think that is kind of who he is, right? He is the kind of, the pure of heart. We kind of get, one of these in every show, but he's the kind of the equivalent, I guess, of our Stark here, right?
Yeah. I mean, he definitely is, and it's kind of like we'll see if it gets him the same fate. Hopefully, it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, he is, much taller, so he's like, if Hodor was an official Stark, I guess, something of that nature. I mean, overall, do you think this has the potential to kind of, improve the dynamic going forward for them, or do you think this could possibly be a step back from when we had the first couple episodes?
I think it's got the potential of being a little bit of a step back. I mean, we'll see how they go with it. But on the other hand, Mills, I'm not sure they like how much more of what we saw where they're just developing this. I mean, that would have been cool and all, but I think this definitely adds a little bit more complexity to it, a little bit more layered, the relationship here, more so than, hey, we're just slowly falling in love with each other, having a bromance and really caring about each other like a family type of thing, right? So I definitely think now they're going to take this relationship someplace that it couldn't have gone without something like this. So I think that's the one upside here. But overall, how long will it take to get there? I mean, these are only 25, 30-minute episodes. We'll see how quickly they move with it.
Yeah, that's a good point there, as far as the run times. I mean, I do think overall this is a ceiling raiser for Dunk though, right? Like think about it, if he just got a regular Squire, that's fine, could probably help him out maybe slightly better than Egg can with the day-to-day kind of stuff. Egg isn't all that with the sewing game, and even with the horse, he's still working it out there. But man, just the connections and the knowledge that Egg has, especially far exceeds that of any other Squire he could possibly have. So it's not even just the possible access he could give, but just think about it. He knows everything about every knight, right? How useful would that be, in a tournament or something like that? And he's already proven his worth. He knows how the lists work and everything. Like, oh, Dunk's all hyped to go. Like, and he's like, oh, dude, you can't even play yet, dude. What are you doing yet? And you're not even close to getting in the game here. So you also brought up the run times here, and as I was kind of browsing the subreddit, some of the internet discussion boards and the whatnot here. here. The overall impression I got was everyone's loving the show for the most part, but they're not thrilled about the runtime of the episodes here. Some people are also unhappy that it's not a binge drop. For me, I'm very happy that it's not a binge drop. I mean, if you want, you could always wait until it's over and then watch them consecutively. So much this day and age is fed to us. And then when you binge drop it too, it also seems like it slips just out of the public eye really quickly, right? Like you're just on to the next thing. And I like being able to have the space to luxuriate it, think about it a little bit during the week. So are you with me here on the non-binging thing? Are you here with me on the weekly release?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way 100%, and the way I look at it is like when it ends, like, oh man, that's it. Like I think that's a compliment actually, because like I want more of it, and I would love for these to be more, but I just don't know that there's enough to this story to really make it more without diluting it or watering it down to the point where you're just doing it for it's like season 12 of Walking Dead, right? Like this show should have ended years ago, not to go that extreme with it, but you know what I mean, the point I'm trying to make here. And I'm with you on the binge thing too, because yeah, that would be fun and all, but like, dude, it would be over in like 2 days. Everyone would watch it, talk about it, dissect it, on to the next. I like this with shows like this where we get to kind of have, a week to chew on it, dude. Watch it a couple times, think about it, listen to podcasts, do podcasts, talk about it, and get ready for the next one. I think with these type of shows, it makes a ton of sense to do that. So I'm happy with the way they rolled it out. Yes, it would be awesome if there were hour-long episodes, but not at the risk of making watering this down or diluting it to the point where it's not as good.
Yeah, and the good news is when all 6 are out, it will be an excellent binge. I can promise you that, just because of the way they've edited them together, and I know kind of how the story ends, obviously. So I think it'll make a pretty fantastic binge. And I think the argument is here, people are like, oh, well, this is a high level prestige drama, and you can't make them that short. I don't think it is, right? Like this is almost as close to like a prestige comedy as we've ever come, but like more of a genre comedy, I guess you would call it. Like we don't get a ton of these. They have existed, but I think it is closer in tone, at least, to a comedy than anything we've got, the fantasy-ish, Game of Thrones universe, right? The rest of it.
Yeah, you're starting to get a little bit of the backstabbing, betray, and just a tiny bit with Plummer trying to fix the thing, right? Like you're not getting a ton of that. There is no White Walker. There is no impending death that you're trying to solve to save the realm. There is no battle for the throne and people backstabbing each other. There aren't any dragons, right? So I mean, I think you get a lot of humor. You get a chance for great character development, and they're doing it all really in this one setting. So I think with all that said, it's a much lighter brand of Game of Thrones, and they've even kind of done that with the whole, how they're doing the intros and just yes, I agree. I think it's comedy-esque set in this time frame, right? So I guess it's a
I mean, you call it a dramedy if you want, but it's not trying to be The Sopranos. You know what I mean? Like, so it doesn't need that hour-ish runtime, and I think it would hurt the show. I think this would have made a very nice movie if they had wanted to go that route. I even think an animated series possibly could have worked, but I'm perfectly happy with the way that they've done it. And they've also made one other crucial decision here, Jamie G. There's a little thing called the Super Bowl happening next Sunday, so they're going to go ahead. It'll still air on HBO in the usual time slot, but they are going to drop the episode online on HBO Max 3 a.m. on Friday, so kind of Thursday evening into Friday morning here. Do you like that call, given the Super Bowl of it all?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I'm not overly thrilled with this year's Super Bowl, but that said, it is the NFL. They do own television, and people are going to, by the time it's all said and done, if you did it right, you'll have a great time at a Super Bowl party, and you're probably not going to be up for watching much TV after that. You're probably going to bed. So I think it makes a lot of sense to let people check this out, Friday, Saturday, that kind of thing.
Yeah, wouldn't that be a great time to, like, if you could, follow it up and like just air it on for free somewhere, like the first episode? Not that, so you kind of like, there's always what's in that post Super Bowl time slot kind of deal. Like if you could kind of sneak your way in there to suck some more people into the pilot for the season, that would probably be cool. So I don't know. It's like three companies own everything now, so we're not far from being able to pull something like this off. So not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Let's get into the other stuff from the episode here. Let's start at the beginning here. It's not quite Rocky Balboa, but how did you like the little egg training montage here? I thought this was nice. Again, this is an addition that's not in the novella. I thought this was very cool overall, both to see Egg. We kind of wondered, like, is he really going to be up to the Squire thing? And he knows a lot, but obviously now we know he's highborn. He probably doesn't have any real experience as a Squire, except maybe for his older brothers. That's probably about it. So maybe he's got a little bit of experience, but also Duck's huge dude. They got multiple guys going on in this joust here. So I thought it was nice to see him get some training. And also, it seemed like he's had a little bit of fun out there too, right?
I love this. I thought this was such a great scene, but you also saw he didn't do this necessarily because he wanted to. He did it because he wanted to help Dunk. Like I loved his conversation with the horse. I thought that was so powerful. And then, it's like, look, if he loses, we're all he has. And if he loses, he doesn't even have that. And that just put it into context. Like, what a great heart. The kid doesn't have to be here doing this at all. But I thought it was so fun to see him kind of like, every kid's gone out in the backyard and ran around and played war or swords or whatever the case. And it was cool to see him be a kid and do that while also trying to like, make sure he's gonna live up to his bargain and not let Dunk down. So again, it helped bring them even closer together a little bit, which made that reveal at the end, I think, that much better.
Yeah, and you could even, when he's talking to the horse, you could even tell like he was a little bit deep down worried like that he can actually get it done as the Squire, right? He's like, and I'll find a way to get the weapon to him somehow. He's got the heart at least. He's definitely kind of got the heart. And shout out Thunder, he was ripping it up there, man. It looks like the horse can move pretty good, man. That was, I'd almost be scared if I was out there. I like horses. I've just never really had that much experience around them unless they're running around in a circle, trying to make a couple bucks. And then we got the meeting here with Sir Robin Reisling. What do you think, man? Are they setting the bar too high when they call him the maddest knight in the Seven Kingdoms? They set that up. They got to deliver on that now, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, man. That's a big statement. It gives them room to do something here. So I definitely like the possibilities it opens. So 100%, I think they should act on that.
Do you think it is really not stealing if you intend to put it back? Because I'm not quite sure that's how it works. That might be, if you got enough money, maybe that's how it works.
I think Aladdin would probably agree with that, and some other characters in the universe. But he makes a good point. I'll tell you that. He makes a good argument. What you do with it.
Theoretically, if back in the day, if like I was at work, someone stole my bike because they needed to like deliver their grandmother insulin or something, and then put it back, and I never knew, like, no harm, no foul. But again, a horse back then, like, it's your livelihood, kind of. You know what I mean? That's that's a pretty big deal. I suppose there's probably been some unauthorized car uses back in the day, but and another nice thing that they've done in this show to differentiate themselves is these kind of quick flashbacks. Dude, the one with Sir Reisling losing his eye was pretty great, right? It definitely sets up for him kind of being that maniac. You got to love the eye patch, right? Like, he looked like he was right out of, like, he could have been in House of the Dragon or the Game of Thrones proper, right? He could have existed in either show, I think, with that look.
Yeah, dude, the eye patch was sick. I absolutely love that. If you notice, he was barefoot walking around out there. No shoes, no socks, no nothing. Just out there bare feet, dude. And he has a certain intimidation about him that I really appreciated. The flashback was awesome. Having it be on the horse with the bounce, with the eyeball flopping, very, very freaking cool. Looked good. Enjoyed that a lot. I hope we get more of Sir Robin Reisling, and a lot of Y's in there, but
I keep wanting to call him Riesling, but it is Riesling. Yeah, Riesling, I mean, it just maybe, we're Flagons and Dragons. You got a little bit of vino on the
the wino in me wants to, drink a Riesling here. But yes, you're absolutely right, Robin. And I believe was Sir Robin of Aaron, was that spelled that way too? R-O-B-Y-N?
Robin Aaron? No, it was like A-R-Y-N-N, I think, or A-Y-R-R-N.
Yeah, but it was Robin spelled R-O-B-Y-N. I thought.
Oh, yeah, right. It was Robin spelled stupid, yeah. Or spelled George,
I
you know what I mean?
Robin
They do that. I'm one of those things. I'm very solid at spelling when I can write it out, but when I have to say it, not so good. And we were wondering here, we got a little bit of a callback, in the first episode, around the title card, you had the Dunk with the explosive diarrhea. Second episode, you got Sir Pettytree, just unleashing the hog here to take a piss. So we kind of wondered, how do they follow that up? And of course, they just have the horse just take a giant shit, like right when Egg is trying to like, get him to go to work.
I thought it was an interesting use of the camera angle on this one because you kind of got it through the legs, so it was kind of cool. I'm glad they didn't go with with something else with the horse mills. As a follow up to Penny Tree last week, but they're 3 for 3 here, dude, with something weird. So we'll give them that.
I actually thought Sir Raymond was going to puke. Like I thought maybe they were going to go for the double burger there. And according to the inside the episode, we kind of touched on two things. Like apparently that's real. The real horse taking a dump. Like that was not a CGI. They managed to get that. The director was very, very proud of that one. And then apparently where they were filming this really was like a sheep field or something like that. So they really were running around barefoot in sheep shit. So. Shout
Wow.
out to the actors really kind of, getting it done there. That they do everything they need to do to make this show for us, make us happy. And speaking of being made happy, how about a good breakfast sandwich, Jamie G? Like
Oh,
people could argue maybe this is a little bit of padding. Like in the novella, if I remember, they kind of eat breakfast, but there's no adventure to get the eggs. And talk about a little like that's got a little bit of a meet cute there, right? When he's trying to explain to the guy like I just want the eggs, and he's doing like the whatever kind of squatting you do to imply like just
I guess he
pooping
was
the eggs out or
laying an
whatever.
egg, I guess. Yeah.
The egg squat, I guess, or whatever. And then that's when Tanzel kind of comes up and like, hey, how you doing? He's like, oh. But that was a sandwich though, right? Like I thought that was
Oh,
very
dude.
cool. Dude, and shout out Egg, the acting there, like that dude just looked like he was starving Marvin. I think part of it is, they've expressed he doesn't like to eat the salt beef or whatever, and Dunk even makes fun of him. So this must have been like heaven for him. He's like, oh, finally, I get some like real food. But that looked like a
Dude, that
sandwich,
looked
right?
money, dude. Yeah, that looked like you could go to, you know, Terminal Station and get one of those. Like that looked like that was a that was a great freaking sandwich, dude. I mean the size of the yolk on those eggs, man. Whoo. Big fan of ostrich eggs and yeah, loved that scene. Loved the sandwich. It made me hungry and looked like a good one. So far, I think that was the best food we've seen so far, I believe.
Yeah, I mean the first episode, Dunk was eating everything in the tent there, but he was eating
Yes,
it so fast you really couldn't even kind of like
that's true.
focus on what it was. And then we kind of mentioned it. They had the nice kind of moment where Dunk said, putting the patch on. He teaches Egg how to do it, and I just like how Dunk got all excited, when Egg successfully did it. Like you could tell, like just like he Dunk would like a Squire, I think too. Like I don't think he really realized it before, but I think he likes kind of imparting what Sir Pettytree taught him. And so I think in that moment he was kind of like, really kind of happy when he does it. And he's still, we talked about, he's still kind of like threatening, like, you better do as I say, or I'm gonna smack you around a little bit. But I don't know that anybody is really buying it at this point. And then just the random thing, this show just they like to throw away jokes. Just how about the bit where Dunk's or when Egg's basically like, is it normal that I'm getting like black hair on my stones or whatever? Or what's going on with that? And shout out Dunk is like, it's not normal that you're telling me.
Yeah. It's not normal to tell me about it. Yeah, I'm glad he's getting them. Maybe they're not quite at that level of the relationship yet, but I think all those little things, you're right. I mean, I don't Dunk seems like he would be much quicker to protect Egg than hurt Egg. And, I mean, I think he's still that's how he was brought up as a squire, so I think that's how he's going to be. It'll be interesting to see if that continues now because like I mean, he's literally, and I just love the fact that earlier in the season we got the whole like he admired the Targaryens and hoped that maybe a house like that would hire him, right? I mean, so it definitely opens up a lot of possibilities here, and I think keeps the back half of this season really interesting.
And there's kind of I would not quite red herrings, but combinations and references here. Remember in the teaser, we had the whole bit where Dunk's like, all right, get my armor, it's time. And, here, obviously, that doesn't happen. He's not going to fight. He's not allowed to. But it's also a nice combination to give him a little something for the trailer. It's a little bit of a gag, but it also, again, shows that Egg knows all this stuff, right? He's like, oh, no. You can't do that. Are you like a knight of high stature or whatever, or highborn, or you're not getting that done. So, it just puts that in there. And then when Egg was whittling in that tree and he's singing a song, it's a real song. It's an in-universe song. It's about the Blackfire Rebellion. So that definitely has something to do with their immediate descendants, more or less. So depending on how much you want to know, how spoiled you want to be, you could just go ahead and kind of Google Blackfire Rebellion, and you will find out quite a bit of stuff that will add some context to the show. so maybe possibly more in upcoming seasons. And then we get, their first action when they go to check out the jousting. It's not the one where Arians fight, it's just the other dudes. I just love it. They're hanging out with the guy, and Dunk hugs Eggs, and he kind of hugs the guy next to him, and he gives him something out of his flask, and Dunk is just like, oh yeah, sure, surely I can handle this, and just buffs it everywhere, which is hysterical because he was just basically giving Egg a bunch of shit for not liking ale. So I thought that was kind of a great moment.
Yeah, I thought this was a hilarious scene. I honestly, I really want to know what was in it. I'm guessing some sort of moonshine or something, but yeah, it was nice to see. Good acting here. If you look closely, Egg's face is hilarious when he's watching him do this too. So definitely a cool little scene.
Yeah, and even the bit where they're kind of ripping on each other in the weird little, I hear your little voices or whatever. Like that's
Right.
not something we would have gotten in another one of the Game of Thrones shows to date, right? That's just not really, maybe with like little kids, but not from our main two characters, basically.
Yeah, I don't think so. Again, it's nice to kind of get that level of humor set in this type of setting with the lineage and everything within the story of the realm. But like, it's cool to kind of get that.
And you mentioned, there is the one moment where they're kind of daydreaming a little bit about like spending time in a place like this, what happens next. And, Egg asks Dunk, like, kind of like, what if you win? And you get the idea Dunk never really thought about it, right? He's just living day to day. He never actually considered what comes next. And that's when he was just about to tell Egg, like, yeah, if I win, I'll keep you on as my squire. And that's when the dude Plumber rolls up. And, Jamie G, we like, putting a couple of coins on things. That's probably the way we're going to have to make do for the Super Bowl since we're not really, rooting for anybody in particular to win. How did you like this scene with Plumber here? It didn't make sense. This is added here. This is not the novella. I like the idea that, like, he's asking him to like not take a dive but win so their guy can take a dive because he's favored because they just spent too much money. All of this is for the dude's daughter's birthday. So do you think this would actually work as a way to recoup? I mean, that's got to be a pretty big wager, right?
It's got to be a huge wager. I did like the complexity of this. This is like early Don King level, like fixing an event here. So definitely appreciated that. It was fun to watch him kind of describe it. I definitely appreciated that first scene when they're walking through the woods. Before the camera even gets close to him, he's still hawking. Like that dude just lives with a permanent loogie, dude. Like that. But yeah, it's got to be a big bet. It's a complicated form of fixing it, but yeah, I appreciated it.
I think it makes sense in that. Well, and shout out Sir Andrew, like Andrew with an O instead of an E. Like this is that's a very, very, very George name there. Good for that. But if you think about it, like theoretically, it would probably be a bad look for someone who's well regarded. He's the hometown favorite. He's thought to be good at this jousting to lose to more or less a rando. But Dunk is
Right.
so huge, you get the idea he'd probably get a pass, right? Like, oh yeah, you lost to this random hedge knife, but that dude was like 7 feet tall.
Right, exactly. It's like it could, and especially if he goes on to win the whole thing, right? Then it's like, it wasn't that bad, really. No one
Right, it's a
beat him.
perfect
So
excuse, really. So I think it's
yeah,
actually a pretty good idea. It just makes you wonder, like, man, what else are they doing if they're this far in debt to this or their coffers are that low? Like, maybe they got some other stuff going on there to try to come up a little bit. And Dunk, for his trouble, like, it doesn't seem like he's going to get a cut, but he would get the armor, the horse, and the arms, which, if nothing else, then he's got a little bit of a cushion, right? So now he can go to another tournament if he loses. He's still got enough to like still have horse and armor and stuff like that. So I mean it's not a bad deal for Doug, right? You get the idea. He's not really interested. He pretty much states as such, but it would be helpful, right? You could get why he would be certainly tempted because he's also not being asked to lose. He's being asked to win.
yeah, but I love that you see a little bit. I think it's a great deal for him, but I love that you see a little bit of that nobleness in him where he doesn't want to win something that he hasn't earned, right? And I thought that was kind of cool that that's where his mind goes. Again, a little Ned Starkish, right? Like there's a little Stark in there. And no, I'm not saying he's a Stark or anything like that. I'm just saying that form of nobleness and doing right, honor, I guess is what you could call it, was kind of cool because it was a good deal for him. It's no skin off his back. Like, cool. He needs to win more than anybody, right? So I mean, I kind of like that he responded the way he did.
Yeah, I wonder, do you think like this is just kind of Plumber and the son and Andro just freelancing it here, or do you think maybe the Lord actually knows about this?
I think he might be. I'm thinking he might be freelancing a little bit here.
It
I'm
might
not
be
sure
one of
what he
those things like the
does.
Lord suspects, but he's just like, he tells the dude, like, do whatever it takes to replenish the coffers. I don't want to know.
Hmm.
Like, don't ask, don't tell a little bit, maybe something like that.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I just need to know what the balance in the checkbook is at the end of the month, basically. As long as we're back in the green, we are good to go. And then it's a green light for the big main event of the tournament. We have the Bright Flame here. We have Aerion Targaryen. He does the dude he goes up to first. That's Valar. That's his cousin there, who is closer. I think he is like third in line for the throne, I think, at this point, or second or third. So he is kind of up there, but then he goes off of him, goes over to the other dude. Like, at what point, you haven't read the novellas. Like, how early on did you get the idea that this was going to end very, very badly?
Right away. And I think one of the biggest things for me was the way the father looked at him. He kind of knew too.
Right.
And
Oh,
then
that's Baylor.
after
So that's
afterwards,
his. Yeah, that's his uncle.
his uncle. So I'm sorry. So after the way his uncle looked at him, and like, and basically, it's like, dude, one of those things where that kind of was like he expects it to be bad, like, and then afterwards he kind of like knew it and the disappointment of it all. So I kind of think, and you kind of got the whole vibe from him. And credit to this guy. I won't say he's full blown, you know, full blown vibes like a Ramsey or like a Joffrey yet, but he is easy to hate. And even the first scene we see him where he's basically considering Dunk the somebody to handle the horses and everything, and just basically belittles the shit out of him, and that's it. You can kind of get the sense that, like, yeah, he's probably a dick, dude, and this showed it even more so with the biggest thing that I hated was just seeing the horse suffer, man. Like, this just I'm not for like animals being hurt.
Yeah, and again, when they put the other horse out, the horse out of its mercy, at least they do cut away. You kind of know what's going to happen here. If you watch again on the behind the scenes featurette, I think it's on the Making a Night. That was also on the HBO Max there. They did almost all of this practically. The lance going through the horse's neck is CGI. But other than that, for the most part, they really have the horse kind of run through, even fall down a little bit. They kind of explain how they do it. That was very cool, but you can kind of, I think it pays off here, kind of having the physical action. You can tell it looks better than the CGI. And dude, Arian obviously seems like a giant dick, but you have to admit, all that armor and everything looks pretty badass, right?
Oh yeah, dude. And the armor on his horse was super cool too, with the dragon thing on the front. That was very cool, dude. Very cool. Remind me, Mills, as a kid growing up, there were at the local playground. There was this crazy wooden like dragon thing that came out. It kind of looked like a horse head, and you can crawl up in there. It was very cool. You had to be athletic to get up there. It was dangerous. Only the cool kids went up there in the dragon head. But it reminded me of that. It was very cool. I really enjoyed it.
And if you think about it, like, was Egg cheering for his brother to die? Like, when he was yelling, kill him, my impression is like he was telling the other dude to kill Arian.
Yeah, I think he realizes his brother is horrible, and his lineage of the Targaryen family is horrible, and that's obviously why he wants to start anew, and he's willing to just like shave his head and become a squire for a no-name knight. Like, that's a big swing from going from being like, royalty to that. So because the Targaryens are sitting on the Iron Throne right now still. So I mean,
Yeah,
it's
and I
like,
mean, just because you're, deep down the line of succession doesn't like it doesn't mean you're gonna have a bad life. Like you're
no.
still in like the 1% basically.
Yeah, dude, you're still,
You're not in
you
the
don't got to
point
be
one
the
percent, but you're in the 1%.
yeah, you don't got to be the captain of the boat to be on the yacht, dude. So I mean,
Yeah.
he would still be fine. Like, his life was very comfortable. He's not eating salt beef, I can promise you that. And so all those little things they did, I think, make it that much better with this big reveal. But yeah, legit, I think he legit despises his older brother, and you can kind of see why. He has that Joffrey energy.
Oh yeah, heavy Joffrey energy, and I mean, obviously he intended to do that, right? Like we're all on, Egg was Team Egg was right the whole time there because I don't really think
Oh
there was
yeah.
any doubt. And then, of course, it's time for the episodic check-in with Sir Lionel here, the Laughing Storm, and we go into his tent, and he is having a good old time singing about Alice, the special last born bereft of thumb. But this is a very fun thing that they talked about on the behind the scenes. The actor who plays Sir Lionel here, not much of a singer, admittedly, and he was also worried like you're doing all this in front of Egg. He's like, dude, because the actor himself's like 9 years old, so he's like, it took me a minute to get kind of used to cursing in front of the boy or whatever, but absolutely just classic body song, going all in on it. And then I love how just Egg turns it into a real philosophical conversation, like, well, what if she really existed? And if so, like, was her real name Alice? And if not, like, why would they write a song about her but not use her real name? And I think it talked a lot about legacy, and it ties into, again, what it really means, to be a knight, and what, the kind of decisions Dunk is grappling with here. So, I mean, gold star here, right? You take a song about a chick with an odd number of fingers shoving it up a man's bum and turn it into something that kind of addresses, one of the big moral complexities of the show.
Yeah, 100%. And I love that they were able to kind of do it in the way where, like you said, he breaks it down into like a real question. And yeah, I love this scene. First of all, I want to spend more time in the tent, dude. The tent is a great time. Shout out Sir Lionel. His tent is where it's at, dude. And great, great time in the tent. Yeah, this was one of my favorite parts of the whole episode.
If there was ever a time to do like a couple of little mini-sodes or YouTube shorts or whatever they want to call them, just like little 2-3 minute joints, like just bits of his partying like every night, just like his like what if he had like the equivalent of a vlog, whatever the Westerosi equivalent of a vlog was, with just Sir Lionel checking in like at the end of every night after partying or something like that, just a little like a mockumentary style confessional or something like that. I think that could be very, very fantastic. And then, they check out of there. And Dunk does kind of mention, like, he tries to talk to Egg about his father, and Egg, of course, kind of demurs. And then Dunk says, like, he thinks that he saw his father possibly get hung. Like, he was theoretically a thief from Flea Bottom. I mean, do you take much away from that? Did it seem like a little bit of a throwaway line? Do you think that really was Dunk's father? Kind of any thoughts on that?
Well, I kind of like that they, again, they gave Egg a chance and he sidesteps it with not lying, but kind of dancing around the truth. We're saying, not really. Did you ever know, do you know your father? Not really. Like that, you could argue that he doesn't really know his father, but not the way that Dunk was asking, right? And then the other part of that I really liked, Mills, was you kind of get this horrific thing with Dunk, but then they find a way to put some humor in it with, if he was a thief, he must have been terrible because he was, he was big as an ox or whatever, right? Like commenting on the size of him again. So I kind of like that they turned it into a little bit of that. I don't know that it was much more than that and much more than an opportunity to connect back to Flea Bottom and connect back to kind of like the realm overall. That was kind of my take on it.
More or less, I take it the same way. I'm trying to make sure I'm not possibly spoiling anything here, but no, I think I kind of took that the same way there. So they kind of part pass here. Egg goes to the puppet show. Dunk teams up with Sir Raymond here because he's got some great cider apparently. Also some very, very strong, I guess you'd call them political opinions. It's like that one friend's like, oh, don't worry, I don't want to talk politics. He gets about 2 drinks in him and it's like, all right, let's talk about every controversial thing I can think of. But at the end of the day, becomes very clear like he is not on team Targaryen at all. You kind of wonder what the impact will be going forward. And, Dunk for a minute there, he's like, dude, I don't really even know how to process this, but, give Sir Raymond credit. He kind of backs down. He's like, I got a little bit carried away there, right? But you get the idea that a lot of Westeros, probably within the small folk, feel this way. And now the Targaryens don't have dragons. There's a reason now we have Baelor, he doesn't have the classic Targaryen hair, right? That's because without dragons, now they basically have to marry around to everybody to try to consolidate their power because they cannot do it by sheer force of air power, basically. Dragons were the equivalent of having nuclear weapons, and now they don't really even have that big of a standing army, so they have to do everything through alliances now. So it's put them in a weird position here. So you get the feeling, it's at least setting the table probably for, not only the eventual ascension of the Mad King. He talks about how each Targaryen king seems to get progressively, a little bit crazier, even though right now you do have the uniter here on the throne here for bringing Dorne back into the realm. But again, he did so via marriage. So there is, quite a bit going on here. Like, what do you think of this whole bit with Sir Raymond here?
I really liked it because you kind of got the feel for like it's not all as rosy as maybe we were led to believe, and we're kind of seeing this phase of the Targaryen dynasty that we hadn't really seen before, right? I mean, because when you watched it in House of the Dragon, obviously they're fighting for their right and trying to figure out who's going to be on the throne, but it's the power of the dragons, right? I mean that rules everything here. And it's the infighting. And then in Game of Thrones, it's kind of like the only reason why they're even coming back into being a thing is because of the dragons, right? So it's like we haven't really seen them without that power. So I like this stage of it. And it kind of makes them vulnerable for the first time where we really haven't seen that.
Right. And they're wondering, like, why are these people still ruling over us?
Yeah.
It's like the North remembers, right? Like, no one is going to forget, like, all the people that got burned in basically one of the events we have been watching and will be watching on House of the Dragon. Like, it's about to get, a little bit dark there for the rest of Westeros. And Raymond starts mentioning, the lost sons again. He mentions Darren is probably drunk again. Again, I don't know if it's a spoiler or not, but that's the dude we saw in the tavern in episode 1 getting hammered there. And it probably makes sense, right? Him and Egg split off. They went their separate ways. He's probably still there getting hammered. And Egg elected to take off. So, he's credited in there. And he starts naming off, and then he goes to name the third son, who he skips over. He's just like, oh, I don't think much of him. He's going to be a maester. And then he's about to say the name of the fourth son, which is obviously Aegon. And then Egg comes running in like, oh, no, you got to come. You got to come. Bad stuff is happening. They go to the puppet tent. Obviously the events unfold here with Aerion breaking Tansel's finger, a Dunk going full berserker, and then Egg ultimately revealing himself. And one nice touch here, it's very subtle if you're watching, like when Egg comes in and starts kind of, saying, who he is and tells everyone to stop. If you look behind him, our guy Sir Raymond is there with his sword drawn behind Egg. Like he was ready to throw down for Dunk.
Nice. I like that. Dude.
Real
That's a
subtle,
nice
real
little
quick.
fun
I did
fact.
not pick up, like I saw it online, and I'm like, oh, is that really? And then I went and looked. I'm like, oh yeah, dude. Like he was, maybe he had a couple ciders in him or whatever, but I think he is at least squarely like he's our first like real like locked in ally, right?
100%, dude. And I'd love to have a little cider there, man. He sold it very well. And then, after a couple drinks, they started laughing and having a good old time there. So, and he opened up quite a bit. I think they both were fueled, both him and Dunk were fueled a little bit off that cider power.
Very cool scene with the dragon, and one of the ironies of it is this isn't even really about the Targaryens. It's about oh, I forget the name here, Sir Selwyn and the mirror shield. And that's the idea, right? He's got the mirrored shield. It kind of reflects the fire back of the dragon here. A very cool scene, but also great direction here, right? Like you kind of see subtly Aerion walk in, and he's got the red. He's real easy to see, but like when Tanzel sees him, and everything just goes dead quiet. Like that was like you said, the show doesn't do big moments that much, but like this was kind of like, a very establishing villain moment for Arian, I think too.
Yeah, he walked in and it was all of a sudden you were kind of scared, like, oh no, like you could tell he was going to do something. Like he just had that, like you said, kind of villain energy there. So, yeah, big moment, done well. I liked it with the red too. He stood out in the crowd.
And we finally got to see Dunk in action to a certain degree. Like great shot. They talked about kind of on
Yeah.
the behind the scenes a little bit the way they shot this, but man, the actor with the crazy eyes, dude. I thought those were some crazy eyes. Tosses around a couple dudes pretty easy. What do you think? It looked like it took 4 dudes to hold him back. Is that the right number? I kind of wanted it to be like some stupid number, but like 8, but 4 is probably fair, right? Because those are 4 probably like solid, like 6 foot, in shape knight kind of dudes. So, that's
Yeah,
that's
I
probably
kind of wanted
fair.
it to be more. It felt like he should have been able to. Maybe I'm just thinking like Andre the Giant style and like in Princess Bride where you can just like throw dudes around or whatever. But like I kind of felt like he could have
He did
broken
toss a
through
couple of
those.
dudes, like, and that
He
is in the
tossed a
development.
couple
Like
dudes.
he's
No, it was
basically
it
like
was
tossing
awesome to see him
dudes.
fight here. No doubt about it. It was awesome to see him fight. No doubt about it. But it felt like 4 might not have been enough. Like he probably could have broken through that. Maybe 6 would have been the better number, but that's hard logistically to do. So I'm not gonna get too hung up on it.
Yeah, I mean, 4 is one for each limb, right? Like if you got one pretty
Right.
strong dude gripping each limb, you're kind of in trouble. Like maybe you need a fifth dude around the back, like circle the waist then. So maybe five dudes,
Right.
but it wouldn't have looked as good on camera probably. At first I thought it was three, but it might have been three early and then they bring in a fourth dude. But it definitely made it look like he was pretty tough to subdue. And then again, great moment when Egg first comes in. Dunk's first concern is like, shut your mouth, get out of here, or they'll hurt you. Like that was
Yeah.
great in that moment when he's about to get all his teeth, like get his head, your curb stomp basically. His
Right.
first thought is to protect his squire.
Again, speaks to that was kind of the second or third thing he did that was super noble in this episode alone, and to me makes you just want to root for him even more.
Oh, and then it's like almost a mic drop, right? When Egg starts talking and he's like, "Oh no, it may be the best use ever of I'll go tell my dad." That usually comes off a little soft, but it works for Egg. And then he knows the names of the guys holding Dunk. And then
Yeah.
obviously Arian recognizes him and asks him about the hair. And he's like, I cut it off, brother. I didn't want to look like you. Kind of a little bit of a mic drop there, right?
Oh, big time, dude. Like I think he kind of won that. I mean, I think he kind of won the whole thing where, um, you didn't, and I love how they did it again because even right up to it, you weren't really sure until he does it, right? They'll have to answer my father, and when he calls him by name, that was kind of like, oh shit, like he knows and then obviously the brother recognizes him right away, and so on and so forth. But yeah, definitely, dude, definitely a powerful moment there for Egg.
That would have been a cool one to watch with like a variety of people where some had like no idea of the reveal that was coming, just to try to watch them and figure out like at what moment they picked up on it. Because right when he first walks in, and you know what I mean? Like there's a couple of different times where you would probably be like, oh yeah, that's the okay, I get it, I get it. And at the end, like they do a very cool kind of like a whip around, they go into a different musical thing. To me, the closest thing it felt like the end of an episode of Succession for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it was just the combination of the camera work and the music, but I don't really mean that in a bad way. But that was kind of the vibe I got. That didn't give me any kind of vibe.
I don't know that I got Succession. I do like it though, now that you said that. I think more so it was just kind of like a oh shit. Like an oh shit kind of thing where it's like, oh dude, wow, now what? You're right. And it
Well,
gave you something to,
that was kind of Succession
well,
combined with
that's a little
the
bit Succession.
well,
No,
because you have the family members, you got the two brothers, like
yeah,
there's a
there's a dynamic there that is similar. But I think the one thing I really like, Mills, and this goes back to what you asked at the beginning of this episode was, do you like it episode by episode or did you want the binge dump? I think this speak because now after thinking about it, watching it a couple times, dude, you're excited about where they can go. They've got options here in terms of where they go with this. And I think that's the coolest thing.
the playing field just expanded basically.
100%.
Because now we can be
100%.
in the room. Before we were in the room, like Dunk, kind of accidentally snuck into that secret conference. But other than that,
Right.
we've been on the ground level here. Now we have a way in, so it does expand at least the kind of conversations we can show. This was even one of the first times we got someone other than Dunk's POV when we followed Egg at the beginning of the episode. So the
Yeah.
show is starting to expand into more of a true two-hander, I guess you would call it. So, again, I knew this was coming. This was probably right up there in terms of the scene that most people who've read the novellas wanted to see adapted and to see if they could kind of land the ship here because it's the big reveal. It's when you get to finally see Dunk use some of his size and his strength. So, knowing that going in, I think they nailed it, man. So I was extremely happy with the way this ended. And I have to admit, if the next episode had been available, even though I kind of know what happens, I would have watched it. I don't want the binge, but I need them to prevent me from hurting myself, right? That's why we can't have the binge option because if they give it to me, this was a good enough ending. It could have been 2 in the morning and I would have probably watched it almost no matter what. Like I got to work at
Yeah.
6, still watching it probably.
Yeah, I think it would have been real hard not to, no matter what the circumstance.
So, and then, so at least we were only waiting till Friday morning here so you can get the fix in early.
Well, it is time to kick off the award tour here, starting with our favorite alternate episode titles. The Squire is a pretty classic episode title here. It's good. It's good. It's short. It lets us know who is going to be important here, but let's be honest, there are probably some fun alternatives for this one, right?
This was one episode where there was just one name that stood out to me, and I didn't know the title going in, and I honestly assumed it would be the title, but I'm going to say that one. I got three here. The first one, just a little fun, combining two of the things here, the little gag from Egg and then Dunk trying to get some breakfast here. So we got some hairy goose eggs. So you got the goose eggs, a couple of black hairs coming in on them. Check with your grocer, make sure they're okay to eat. And then next up, we have a little bit of a Cisco reference, and it works both in terms of Aerion and Aegon. Some Unleash the Dragon here. You know, we didn't think Targaryens were maybe going to be as involved here, but yet the dragon has been unleashed. How do we work in the thong song? Not sure yet, but we got Unleash the Dragon. And then ultimately, what I thought would be the title of the episode, the whole arm bone. Because you had it in the song, and then Egg brings it back as like the defining point of the big kind of conversation with Dunk, the whole thing, you know, kind of the crux of the, you know, the emotional, ethical confliction in the episode. And, you know, he's like, you know, the whole thing, the whole arm bone. I honestly thought that was going to be the title. So for me, that's one with a bullet, the whole arm bone. We also got Unleash the Dragon, Hairy Goose Eggs. Jamie G, do you have a preference of those?
Oh man, I got to go with shout out Cisco here, but dude, I got to go with Harry Goose Eggs. Just flows very well, but I think if I had to rank them here, Harry Goose Eggs 1, the whole arm bone 2, and Unleash a Dragon 3. It's a solid top 3. It really is.
I mean, the whole arm bone also sounds like that could have been a title of a Game of Thrones episode, right?
Definitely could have.
Like
Definitely
it just
could have.
that felt like, and it's also got great the whole arm bone. Like it'd be good in a rap song even. Someone's going to work that in.
Yeah, dude, the arm
I
bone's
mean, they worked it
connected
in.
to
It's
the
in the Alice
whole arm.
song, so I mean that's where it comes from.
Next up here on the award tour, we are highlighting our favorite moment or scene from this episode titled The Squire. Mills, I'll go first here, man. I got to go with Egg's training montage. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was kind of a neat thing where you kind of get him just staring at Dunk as he's sleeping. He decides to just get up and go do it. His conversation with the horse, his interaction with Riesling there and Riesling and the whole thing that he did. And you realize he's doing it because he really cares about Dunk, man. Like I thought that was just super cool. I enjoyed that whole scenery there and that whole moment with Egg.
And I hope we just get a little bit more in terms of Egg training montages, so there's at least enough to set it to a little bit of the Rocky music. So that'll be a good time. I am there for that.
We had the egg, Mills. If only they were doing raw eggs, we could have did a whole thing.
We're not there yet. I mean, we got 3 episodes left. Perhaps we will get there. For my favorite moment, I am just going to go. Theoretically, I could go with the whole scene in Sir Lionel's tent. That probably counts. But I'm going to more specifically go with that conversation between Dunk and Egg after, because I think it is so important, and it's also kind of hysterical, like within the context of obviously a woman who has not the right number of fingers shoving up a man's bum, and that's what leads to this whole thing. And it's like,
Perhaps it is a story of honour.
Honor?
A misfortune girl making the best of her natural gifts.
One might wish for more.
But is this not the act of a dogged spirit, giving more than what is asked? The whole arm bone, as it were.
the whole arm bone, as it were. I'm there for that.
Oh, that's fantastic here, man. Sticking with our favorites. Next up here, we got our favorite quotes from the Squire. Mills, you're up first here. Hit us with your favorite quote.
I'm just pulling from Sir Raymond's little monologue here.
The only honourable thing a Targaryen can do for this realm is finish on his wife's tits.
He might not be wrong.
He might not be wrong, and it was hilarious. It added a lot of humor, and it's like, as the cider was flowing, dude, these type of lines came out here. So good, great dialogue, good writing there. Appreciate that one. Mills, I'm gonna go a tad bit deeper here for mine, dude. I'm gonna go with the scene with the fortune teller and Egg and Dunk, and
You shall know great success and be richer than a Lannister.
Thank you. Do the boy now.
You shall be king, and die in hot fire, and worms shall feed upon your ashes. And all who know you shall rejoice in your dying.
What?
Thank you, that's very good.
Why would she say that?
this interaction was awesome on multiple levels for me, Mills. First off, you get a little shout out to the Lannisters there. They've always been pretty rich, so that was nice to hear. Um, the difference between Dunk and Egg's reaction to this is so funny, but so on point. And honestly, both these predictions, I thought it was really exciting kind of here, and it's kind of like, and this was a little bit of foreshadowing here with what we find out with Egg, right? I mean, it would still there a lot would need to happen for him to be king, but at least there's a chance, right? And so I definitely think this was a critical scene. I really like this exchange here between them on multiple levels, Mills.
Yeah, we've skipped this over deliberately because we're going to save this for predictions because it depends kind of how deep you want to go. But you're absolutely right. Fantastic scene. And what makes it land so hard is Dunk obviously thinks she's just full of shit, right? That's why he's
Right,
laughing. Whereas Egg,
right.
because Dunk's like, well, you could never be king. Oh, that's a good one. And Egg is like, how the hell did she know that?
Right. For Egg, it's probably like, whoa. For donkeys, you anybody who's like traveled, the random gypsy comes up to you and tries to tell you something. I mean, you don't really take it serious that often, but I think that the split here between Egg's reaction and Dunk's reaction was just absolutely epic.
Oh yeah, because Doug was pure entertainment. You know what I mean? He was like, here, here's your coin or whatever. Like that was a good time. Like the point is maybe not to be
Right.
accurate, just to be funny. Like you're just entertained. Like it's an entertainment thing. But obviously there has to probably be like I don't know, like she. I mean, she seemed to know something. So we'll see again. We'll save it for predictions. There's a little bit of a teaser.
Yeah. So I guess Mills, there's a little bit of magic left in this version of this part of the
Teensy
realm, this
tiny bit,
timeline.
just a
So
teensy tiny bit.
tiny bit. Instead of doing rankings or just handing out an episode MVP, we're changing things up for a Night of the Seven Kingdoms. For each episode, we're going to give our dynamic duo. Mills, go ahead and break down how this thing works.
Well, because in this kind of two-hander, it would be very easy to just go with Dunk or Egg every week. So we're kind of going to split the baby a little bit here. We're going to give out a knight and a squire. Our knight has to be our favorite of the episode between Dunk and Egg, and our squire can basically be anybody else who we enjoyed for whatever reason. Only real rule is that you can only take somebody twice as your squire. You can be unlimited with Dunk and Egg. I'll go first for this one. Episode 1, my knight was Dunk. My squire was Sir Lionel Baratheon. Episode 2, my knight was Egg, and my squire was Baelor Targaryen. Jamie G, episode 3, I think you have to go with Egg here. The episode is literally titled after him. Dunk did not do anything wrong, but I think this is Egg's episode. And for my squire, I'm going to go to the dark side, man. Give me Aerion Targaryen, dude. Give me the Bright Flame, because now we have a proper villain. That's what we didn't have before. It was kind of Dunk just having to succeed in the tournament, right? Which is fine. But Rocky works much better when he's fighting Apollo Creed, right? Like that's how you need. You need to have the guy on the other side of the ring, the guy you're fighting. Now we have somebody that we want to beat. I think you could go with Lionel Baratheon once again. I think he's had the opportunity to be there in all 3 episodes, but we can only use him twice. I've already used him once, so I'm keeping my powder dry for him one more time here. Jamie G, for yourself, episode 1, your knight was Dunk. Your squire were the camp women there, the camp followers, the redheads. Episode 2, your knight was Egg, and your squire was the well-hung Sir Arlen of Pennytree. Who do you have for us? Episode 3, Knight and Squire.
Yeah, I gotta go Egg. I mean, it's his episode, man. He earned it. He's definitely my knight. For my squire, though, I'm going Sir Raymond Fossaway. In the same way that you've got a villain, we've got an ally here. We've got an alliance here, and it'll be interesting to see now that he knows all this, if anything changes with it. Like you said, he was ready to go to battle there. He made his feelings clear on his thoughts around the Targaryens. It would be nice to see maybe a little alliance. Maybe he needs him. Maybe Dunk needs Sir Raymond here. So I gotta give him my squire this week.
I think he is a very fair squire here, and also probably brings the squire, or probably brings the cider.
Yeah, and he's got great cider, homemade, dude. So definitely looking forward to tasting that. The final stop here on the award tour, it's our episode grades. We are grading each episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms on a scale of 0 to 100 flagons of ale or flagons of cider.
whatever floats your boat here, whatever fits your fancy. For the first two episodes, I've gone 84 flagons, 86 flagons. I am up here, Jamie G. I'm going all the way up to a 90 here. This was one where I knew a couple of things that probably had to happen here. I was very curious to see if they could land the plane. I think they landed the plane, but I want to leave a little bit of room to grow here for the back half of the season. So I'm going a solid 90 flagons of ale for episode 3, The Squire. Thus far, you have given 80 flagons of ale, 86 flagons of ale. Where are you on the Squire, 0 to 100 flagons?
Yeah, I'm right in the same universe as the last episode. I'm gonna go 85 flagons. I think that there was not a disappointment that you didn't get, more action with him. I think they teased it a little bit. You didn't get there. It was kind of a little bit of a psych out. Great episode overall. Still very much impressed, but I'm staying right around the 85 flagons veil for this one.
Again, so far to date, knock on wood, I don't think they made a bad episode of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms.
I don't either, not at all.
And please be aware, we are about to get into our predictions for the fourth episode of the season, as well as the rest of the season overall. We will also be talking about the sneak peek, the plot synopsis, any interviews, all that sort of thing. Not going to get crazy heavy into the novella, but there might be a little bit more here, so don't say that we didn't warn you. And the short plot synopsis for the fourth episode of the season, titled Seven, is Dunk angers the Targaryens and demands trial by combat. When Aerion calls for a trial of the Seven, Dunk must find 6 warriors to join him in battle. And Jamie G, this tracks with what we've seen from the teaser and the trailer. We knew something like this was coming. More or less, the short answer is basically Dunk needs 6 guys to give him his 7, and then he's going to have to fight Aerion and his 6 guys and his 7 in a big giant melee. It seems kind of proper now, right, that we've introduced all of these other characters, because now there's an opportunity for basically everyone to get on the field at the same time, right?
Yeah, and it also creates a little bit of just kind of strategy around, man, do I really want to be the one that fights a Targaryen? What's that do to my house? What's that do to my Vigil? What's that do to my livelihood, right? So I think there's a lot of, you're starting to get a little bit of that. It's getting a little Thronesy in here, which I appreciate. And it also gives a chance to see Dunk kind of like have some leadership qualities, dude. So I'm super pumped. I was fired up about the preview here, the short little preview.
If this basically means like we're not going to get any real like action until at least the 5th or 6th episode, are you okay with that? Because now it seems like he's got to put his team together, right? So it seems like that's probably what comes next.
After this last episode, I think I kind of accepted the fact that we might not ever get it. And if we do, it might just be like the final thing we see in the end of this season, heading into next season. I think I just kind of, it just seems like they keep dancing with it. But like now, I don't think we'll ever see him actually do like the games. Like we're not going to see him like, now it's like a fight, right? So, yeah, I think I'm okay with it just because I kind of, I don't know. I just kind of got over the fact, like when it didn't happen in this episode, I kind of just accepted the fact that it might not happen at all, or it will be like the last thing that happens.
I mean, in the teaser, we do see him on the horse in full armor, kind of calling everybody out. So it seems like he's probably in a spot right where he's not really getting much success. Like, who do you think that is the first guy to come over? Like, is it Sir Raymond? Is he like at least like the one guy we can feel pretty confident is going to sign up?
I think that's basically, other than that, I would say Egg. Egg would, wouldn't shock me if Egg's his first guy. I don't know that he wants him to, but like that wouldn't shock me. But yeah, I think Sir Raymond's got to be the short odds here, right? I mean, that's got to be minus 200 odds that he at least that he's the first one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, minus 200, minus even 350, maybe somewhere in that range. And we did see in the trailer Egg kind of dressed out in the traditional Targaryen garb. That hurt, right? He doesn't look good in that.
He didn't look good in the black and red, dude. He looked much better in just the regular common folk greens and everything that he was wearing before. Definitely didn't look the same. Tough to see a little bit. Not that I hate the Targaryens or anything. Targaryens are cool and everything, but it's just like,
Didn't look right, dude. It just didn't look right. Sometimes it doesn't,
Right.
like when someone plays on a sports team for a long time and then they go somewhere else, and like it doesn't look right seeing Patrick Ewing in an Orlando Magic jersey, right?
It didn't. It did not look right.
As
As a
that's kind
Ewing
of what we're
fan
going with.
and a Knicks fan, it did not look good.
And we touched on the fortune teller here. I'm going to mostly defer to you here because I have a decent idea what she's talking about. Like, obviously, do you lend more credence to what she said now that we know that Egg could theoretically potentially become king?
100%. I think that like his reaction made me think that it scared him, and I thought that you kind of got a little bit of it then, like, wait, how can that be, right? But now, given all things considered, yeah, dude, like, and then it makes you wonder, well, why? Why would people rejoice? He seems like he would be a great king in terms of like peaceful and doing the right thing and trying to, help the small folk and everything. So it makes it really interesting to see why that would be the end of it all, if in fact he did become king.
I do not want to get like really spoilerly, like just in a general standpoint, I will say that like prophecy in the A Song of Ice and Fire universe has always been what George R.R. Martin called a sword without a hilt. Like it means like you can grab it and it's strong, but it'll cut you while you do. Like it's hard to necessarily interpret it in the correct fashion. So this has been igniting, at least reigniting some of the online conversation about some of this. And I don't want to get too deep into it, but let me just ask you this. Like, Dunk, when he heard this, obviously, he thought it was just, a gag, whatever. It was entertainment. But now that he knows theoretically Egg could actually become king, do you think like he'll ever kind of reflect on that and be like, oh, it'll affect him in some way to think like, oh man, well then does that really mean I'm going to be richer than a Lannister or what have you? Or do you think, it kind of goes over Dunk's head a little bit?
I don't know, man. Based on what we've seen out of Dunk so far, I think he would worry that like he would become richer because of Egg, but not really earn it, right? I mean, we've kind of seen that a couple times now with him, where he questioned, like if he was even going to be able to be a knight, and then he questioned, the whole thing with fixing it because he didn't earn it. It wouldn't shock me if he questions this pretty heavy too, with like just like his, he's got kind of that nobleness to him. It wouldn't shock me if he worries that's the reason why, and not his own well-doing.
I think that's very well said. Do you have any kind of independent predictions of your own here? I don't want to lead you on too much here. Is there just kind of anything, or even like kind of any like major questions you want to make sure they resolve going forward?
Well, I think where they go with Egg, right? Like you see him wearing the Targaryen stuff, so it kind of leads me to believe that he's back home, and like his stint as a squire is over. Which, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of a little bit disappointing because he was awesome as a squire, and you wanted to kind of see more than that in 3 episodes. So, kind of wrapping up how he's gonna balance that is one thing, and then number two, what happens like if the Targaryens lose? Like that, like how, where do they go from there, right? They set it up with him killing the horse and kind of taking the cheap route and people booing and not real happy. If they lose this, you got to imagine the popularity even plummets even more, right? So like, is that part of something? I guess where I'm going with this, Mills, is if that triggers a bigger action that affects the realm, whether it's 10 years or 20 years after this, you'd like to kind of know if that's the case or not.
I think you're definitely onto a little something there, and I don't want to again get too deep into stuff, but let's just say from this point forward, going to go just a touch deeper. Might touch on a little like Game of Thrones, House of Dragon stuff. So if you want to get out of here now, thank you. But again, we're not going to spoil anything super major, but you will learn some stuff. So you got a 5, 4, 3, last chance to bounce. Thank you very much for checking out the show. So we do kind of know that going forward, Sir Duncan will be head of the Kingsguard. Egg will be king. Aegon the Unlikely, he is 11th in line at this point here. Like one of the ways that people have interpreted the idea that Dunk will be richer than a Lannister is that if you look in the big book of the Kingsguard, we see Jaime Lannister have in, I believe, season 4 of Game of Thrones. When he looks, Sir Dunk has the most pages of anybody, I believe, 4 pages. And Jaime has, Jaime Lannister, but only a paragraph himself. So theoretically, would that make him richer than a Lannister?
Yeah, I think so. Especially richer in terms of what would matter more to Dunk. Sure, Dunk probably values money, but I think he values that a lot more. The legacy.
And then the idea with Aegon, with those who know him hate him, the idea is that Aegon, because of the way he comes to power, like he is Aegon the Unlikely, they let him squire with Dunk because he's never going to be king. So they thought it would just be kind of useful. And, he's a fourth son. Like, you don't have that much to do. You don't have a lot of options here. Actually marrying like a second daughter is a pretty good gig. But based on that, he interacts with the small folk and he learns to empathize with them. So when he gains power, he basically like taxes the rich. He's a populist, more or less. So mostly all of the other lords do not like him because he took power away from them and gave it back to the people. So would that be, again, it's prophecy. We don't know for sure. I am somewhat speculating here, like he did do this, but we do not ultimately know yet within the lore exactly how it all ends. So, perhaps I'm wrong, but would you be cool with this kind of interpretation of that's why people hated him? It's because the people who knew him, the rich people, hated that he basically, kind of Robin Hooded the whole thing.
Yeah, he Robin Hooded. That would make a lot of sense. And honestly, that would make me feel better than the fact that like he went crazy or like had like the Targaryen curse or he like, did something terrible that made everybody was in famine or something because of him. It just doesn't seem right. Like that seems more like something he would do, which would be, take from the wealthy houses and give back to the people. And with that comes a loss of power, and you could see the hatred towards him, right? And the will and want to have him taken out and somebody else replacing him. So it makes a lot of sense.
See, we know he did those good things, but there is still a chance again. Theoretically, this is probably at the end of all of the Dunk and Egg stories that George intends to write, but there is a chance he could go mad at the end. He is a Targaryen. He does wind up being the grandfather to the Mad King, who is the one deposed by Jaime Lannister, basically to kick off the events of Game of Thrones. So there is a way it all ties together here. So maybe this was a little bit spoilery, but again, this is all pretty much common knowledge. And I guess the other thing here that we discussed a little bit off cam, I'm just going to throw it in here, like the middle third brother here is Aemon Targaryen. We know him as Master Aemon from Game of Thrones up there on the wall. He is actually the one who gave Egg his nickname. So it feels kind of, not, you got to kind of call him out here, right? Because that's one of the most direct connections we're probably going to get to the Game of Thrones proper series. So that's kind of cool, right? Like, because we heard him in his final, like he talked about, Egg, like he talked about it like it was very cool. Like all of us who've read the novellas at that point, like kind of like nerded out a little bit when we actually got the mention of Egg from Aemon. So it's kind of cool to get the other end of it here a little bit. Like, it is some connective tissue.
100%, dude. And it was cool how they just kind of glossed over it in this episode, be like, they're going to send him off to be a maester, right? And it's like, and then you start thinking of like Sam and everything and what we know about like the process of becoming a maester. So it was really cool the way they tied that back together. Definitely good shout out there.
We always like to tie it back around, and we love that y'all checked out another episode of Flagons and Dragons. We greatly appreciate it. Once again, we are presented by Regular Dudes Watch Stuff. Did you like what you saw? Did you not like it? Did we say something good? Did we say something bad? Let us know in the comments. Hit us up on social media. You can find us at Dudes Watch Stuff and on the web at dudeswatchstuff.com. Once again, thanks for checking out the show. Please do not forget those flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please remember to touch that thumb. I'm Magna Mills. He's Jamie G.
Until next time, keep your flagons full and your dragons hot.
I'm still afloat. I ain't the captain of the yacht, but I'm on the boat. I ain't acting what I'm not, knowing that I don't. You niggas acting like you will, but I know you won't. You won't, man. I read between the lines of the eyes of your brows. Your handshaking matching your smile. You niggas